I stand in front of you, my glorious collection. I come with you, and looks like we have guests. Well, hi guys, it's Retro Dad. Like I said in my recap video I did just last month, that we're gonna do one more video for Volume 2 before we go to Volume 3. In Volume 2, we'll wrap up with a brief overview, or I should say an update, of my retro collection, which has exploded into wondrous proportions. So sit back and relax, and I'm going to show off my collection. Not really to show off, I'm not trying to rub in your face, but kind of show some highlights and things I've gotten. Not just for you, but for me too. This is kind of like my own visual archive, like I said in my recap. I recommend if you have a decent collection of anything, archive it. You never know when you might need a visual proof of it later on. And what better to start off with the letter A for Atari. This is my original 2600. This is actually the first console that I truly owned. Now, it's not my favorite though. I'm going to show you some of the games I still own and some of the new ones I picked up in the last couple years. Okay, here are some loose Atari games. All these are from my childhood. So this is the first time I've actually shown these in my collection videos. Probably seen it with the video game hoarders. The crazy character that I had that actually transitioned to the Retro Dad. I actually don't really collect Atari, and when I was buying NES, I stumbled across these at one of my local game stores, and they had them for, as low as 50 cents. So I went ahead and bought all of them they had. There was only one I did not buy, and they wanted $8 for that, and it was another special edition. I forgot what it was. At the time, I didn't really bump into Atari games too often in the box. Now I bump into them a lot more. Mario Brothers, I did spend about $5 on that at another store about a week after I purchased these ones. And since then, I haven't purchased any Atari games since I think 2000, maybe 11. Like the shirt says, old school. The NES is my favorite system. I love the Nintendo more than any modern system and any system that came out after it or even before it. Nintendo is my favorite system. Here, I'm playing Nintendo right now. B becomes before A. When I got about 136 games, that was really cool. But as of now, as of October 13th, 2015, I own 457 unique titles, with 91 of them being complete in the box and about 25 just in the box. I have Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Punch-Out, so I only count one of them. I also own the variant of Metroid with the yellow card, and the classic gray as well. This is the Nintendo Entertainment Action Set. This is actually the original set that I owned when I was a kid, except for my set had the orange gun, this one has the gray gun. Oh, look how happy they are. This is my deluxe set with a complete working ROB. So, I have a Model 2 NES. These are actually a little bit more collectible than the Model 1s. I prefer the toaster model over this model because it doesn't have an RV switch. Disappointing. But like I said in one of my other videos, I love the dog bone controller. It feels a lot like a Super Nintendo controller. I'm going to show you some recent finds, some of the highlights in my collection, and pairs. I want to show you 4 NES games that show the price difference of NES. Starting with Shatterhand, usually goes between 30 and 36 loose. Bucky O'Hare can go anywhere between 77 and 100 loose. Metal Storm can go anywhere between 100 and 110 loose. Sometimes you might get it for 90. And Jetsons can go anywhere between $120 to $172. Here's another example of 3 NES games, starting with Rockin' Cats. Rockin' Cats can go anywhere between 50 to 70. Scat can go anywhere between 70 to maybe 85. Mighty Final Fight can go anywhere between 130 and 160. Ah, Cowboy Kid. It's not some weird homosexual porno, I assure you. It is actually a pretty rare NES game. Nintendo age rates it a 7. Here's Baseball Stars complete in the box with its sequel, which is actually pretty uncommon, Baseball Stars 2. Here we have Mike Tyson's Punch-Out complete in the box with the later release Punch-Out, which was actually the cart that I own, so I got my Nintendo late. Here's Power Punch 2, and here's a fairly difficult game to find in the wild, World Champ by Romstar. The Bubble Bobble series, starting with Rainbow Islands, a fairly uncommon game. Bubble Bobble, one of my original carts, and the almighty Bubble Bobble 2. With instruction manual, I actually got the instruction manual before I got Bubble Bobble 2. So here are my black box titles. These are actually recent additions. I've owned all the games, but I just got a deal about a month ago for these black box games and a couple other NES games as well. All complete with the exception of Die Hard. These are 2 recent additions to my collection. So I want to give you one last example of the range of the NES and the prices, starting with Mickey. Mickey is worth a couple dollars, so maybe $3.50, maybe $2. Go up to River City Ransom, you're looking at a $30 game. Okay, now we're going to jump past the $50 mark and go to Mega Man, which is now a $65 to $70 game. These are all market values, by the way. Contra Force, you're looking at $95 to $100. Zombie Nation now goes for about $182 to $200. It has dropped in price, and actually now Snow Brothers is worth more than Zombie Nation. Snow Brothers is a $212 game. So here's some unlicensed NES games. We're starting with Dizzy, which is a Camerica game. Then 2 beautiful Tengen games, RBI Baseball and Shinobi. And we end with the Wisdom Tree game, Bible Adventures. I don't have Color Dream games. I usually don't collect unlicensed games very often. I love the 16-bit systems. When I had a choice to upgrade my system for one of my birthdays, I had a choice between going Sega and Super. I went with a Sega Genesis over a Super Nintendo. Now I missed out on some great titles, but ended up getting a Super Nintendo years later. I have the Model 1 and the Model 2, or the Model Mini. I actually prefer to play with the Mini because the sound and the video quality is better than the Model 1. I'm not sure why. This is not the only Model 1 that I've tried to have the same problems. I don't know if it's just something over time, but I'm happy with my Mini. It's how I capture my footage, your game footage, and play on. But hey, this works just as well. This is a little bit more clearer and the audio is better. Maybe I just had bad luck with the last 3 I tried on the Model 1, who knows? Well, since we're on talking about the Super Nintendo, let's check out my SNES collection, which actually has grown quite a bit in the last year. Now, I don't have very many Super Nintendo games in the box, or complete in the box, but here's examples of some of them. Okay, here are some loose SNES titles. Now, my very first video, I didn't really go over my Super Nintendo collection too much. So we're going to end it here, though, with some Mario games. There's a Aladdin Deck Enhancer. I got 3 of the games. I think there's only 6 or so. I almost have a complete set of them. Here is the complete in the box NES Advantage with instruction manuals and everything. This is the Power Pad. I only got this a couple months ago. I got it for about $10. Ah, the laser scope. My son found this a couple years ago at Goodwill. Now, it doesn't have the sight it's missing. It didn't have the sensor that you need to use. Now, the funny thing is, I found the sensor the same Goodwill 6 or 7 months later. So yeah, just missing a little sight piece. You know, I probably should get one complete in the box just to own. But yeah, this is one accessory for the Super Nintendo I own. My least favorite Nintendo system is the Nintendo 64. And here are my boxed N64 games. Chew! Just working out the Gamecube, you can use it as a weight. Speaking of the Gamecube, here it is. I have a black model, and I actually have the Game Boy Advance player, the Game Boy player actually was called, attachment with it, with the disc. If you're gonna go get the player, make sure it's a disc, because you have to actually pop it into here to make it work. I had to track one down. I actually had to get 2 players in order to get this. This is actually the second one I've owned. I used to own a blue model, but I traded it in with a bunch of other GameCube games. Not a whole lot, but some when we got the Wii. Unlike the N64, I love the GameCube. Well, let's check out my collection. It's pretty small. I don't have that big of a selection of games. I'll show you some of the highlights that I do have. So here are my 3 Game Boys. I have the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance, and the Game Boy Advance SP. And here is almost my entire Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. One thing you can do if you're going to start collecting, you can get alternatives to the games that you want. Here's a Game Boy Advance Capcom Classics Mini Mix. It includes Mighty Final Fight, and a real expensive NES game. I got this for $5 complete.